Good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Working Together series live from the Netiv Zoom room down in Houston, Texas. We're live with Rabbi Karmi Ingber, who's been doing this very unique session where he's been answering questions by taking them up front and integrating them into the broadcast. It's been very, very interesting the last few weeks. We did miss last week. Things pop up. We have to respect everybody's time, especially the rabbis. We're so grateful he takes the time out of his busy schedule. He's still in Israel, from my understanding, and so
that's
on
right.
that note, let's hello. Hi, Rod. You're live on the air. If we want, we'll turn it right over to the rabbi. And
yeah, I just want to say something real quick.
Sure.
Rabbi, make sure you put out your email or some information where people can reach you on for questions, so we can present it to you in advance.
Yeah, and
Nice.
Ronald joined us today from Australia because he had a question before we finished the last session you weren't able to get to, so he came in person, which we're glad to have him. And
Ronald, good to see you. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has, Rabbi, a very long time.
Okay, good.
I keep watching your this program. I always watch it on YouTube. Anyway,
Okay.
not that
Awesome.
I've just not been around, but I always watch them. I love you.
Great. We missed you. I'm glad to see you. So let's start. Let's jump in. We have some questions. I know Lara sent me one on email, and I will try to deal with that.
Recording
Ronald, you had a
in
question?
progress.
Let's get the questions together, and let's try to put it all together.
Ronald, you want to go
Okay,
first?
Ronald, what do you got?
My question was, in Gan Eden, they always say that Adam and Eve, the first sin, but before they ate from the tree of knowledge, would that be classified as a sin? Would they have known it was a sin?
If what? Say again, if what?
Well, they ate from the tree of fruit and knowledge, the fruit of the tree of knowledge. Well, before that, if they didn't have knowledge that they would be sinning, is it really a sin? Was it really a sin? It's always referred to as the sin that they did.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Okay,
Did you understand it?
It's a very, very complicated question, much more complicated than people realize, because people don't know what we're talking about with the story of the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve did not look the way you and I looked. They were on a completely spiritual level. It is the basis of endless mystical explanations and Kabbalistic explanations. I'll try to answer you a little bit. I'll put that question in. It's a good question. The truth is, to explain the Garden of Eden would take 1,000 years, and we'd be scratching the surface. But we'll try to answer that with the disclaimer that the way anyone who reads the story of the Garden of Eden without the understanding of the sages is reading an absurd fairy tale. They don't know what they're talking about. They weren't frolicking around like two kids didn't know. They were prophets. They were in the highest level. The level, it'll freak you out, but the Kabbalists explain the level of the animals in the Garden of Eden was higher than the level of human beings today. The spiritual level of what we're talking about was not what you think it is at all. It didn't look like the world that we have today. It was a different spiritual level entirely. And people who think, they were frolicking, they didn't know good from evil, that's not what it means. They were prophets. They communicated with God and were on the highest level, higher than any person that's come since then. Moses went up to that level to a degree. I think Moshe, but no one else did, because it's not possible. The whole world changed. But I'll answer your question. That's an introduction. So good. That's Ronald's question. What else we got?
Rabbi Dan here. Yeah. Can I ask? It's very evident that the Noahide laws are they have a personal building quality to them. But my question is, how come the rabbis have not put out an authorized blueprint for Noahide community?
Okay. I'm going to answer that question in addition to what Lara sent me. Lara, I don't know if you're available to be on the screen. You may want to read what you wrote. I read it last week. I could read it again, but I remember the question. I'll answer the question that you got. But if you have to add any parts that I might be forgetting, the question, please do. So Dan's question is very similar to Lara's question. Lara had and somebody that she knew or knows, I don't know. Lara, please correct me if I'm saying anything not right, because I see you're on the screen, but you might not be available to speak directly. So message me if I'm saying something not correct. But basically, an acquaintance she knew who essentially, in a certain sense, assaulted the understanding of what a Noachide is, and said, "Oh, it's not a I don't know, it's not a good thing, it's not a real thing. It's like it's Judaism light, and what is it, and all these different things." So I'm gonna add the explanation to what Lara received from a certain we'll call him a scorner, Lates. Which the verse in Kohelet says you gotta be careful with the scorner, because when a person makes a joke and blows things off, it takes out the air of the tire, and makes a person it's not serious. So I'll answer that, and I'll get to Dan's question also, why the rabbis themselves, how the rabbis today relate to the Noachide communities, and how come they haven't created certain guidelines and parameters yet. Good question. What else we got? Any other questions we have? I got to tie these things together. I got to make them in one cohesive thing. So we got the Noachide community we got to deal with, and we got Adam in the Garden of Eden. Okay, so good. How do we do this? This is going to be exciting. All right, what else we got? Don't be shy, everybody. Any question you got? Can't guarantee you all know, but there's a rabbi above me who does. So if I don't know, I'll ask somebody else. Cheyenne, please.
So mine's kind of like a more Kabbalistic question.
Okay.
When Ger finally finishes their conversion, each month has a mazal, and they had a previous mazal. Do they take on any mazal of the month that they're now technically like new in, since they're receiving a new name, supposed to get a new neshama? Like, what are the implications of that time?
Right. Is there like a new birthday essentially?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good. Yeah. It's a question. I'll give you two sides. I don't have haven't seen it brought exactly in that way. I've heard talked about. So we'll explain a little bit what mazel means. Mazel is mistranslated as luck or fortune. The problem is we don't believe in luck. We don't believe in happenstance. But there is a certain certain circumstances of our lives that people are given. So to explain the question, Shan's question. The word mazal, which you probably heard the term mazel tov, right? It was like, I think there was even a group in the 90s who made a song about, said mazel tov in the song. Right, so Mazel Tov means like congratulations, but it means Mazal, which means fortune, Tov, good fortune, and what that really means that every person is born with a certain tools and circumstances of their lives to accomplish their mission. And we all have that. Like, why were you born to this family, to this time, to this place, to all these things? Why are you born into that dynamic? Whether you have these traits or those traits, these strengths, these weaknesses, those are all your tools in your life to accomplish your mission. And the word mazal comes from the Hebrew word nozel, to flow. It's the flow from above that gives you your tools of life. So what Cheyenne is asking, when a person converts, since they are considered to be newly created in that sense, so do they get a new mazal? Do they get a new fortune, a new set of tools? And if so, the question then would be, what would they get it as? Thank you, Terry. By the way, my wife is always telling me to tell you guys I have a book. I don't like self-promotion, but in my book, in the second chapter, I explain Mazel in great detail. So, Terry, if you like that explanation, in my book, Where the Heavens Kiss the Earth, the second chapter, we go and we explain Mazel with all of the different components to it, because it's a very, very long, complicated topic. Okay, great. So I got to answer that question of Mazel that Cheyenne is asking, and when a person that converts, what they get a new Mazel, what is that? What is that? Good. Any other questions? We got 3 doozies from 3 different places. Gonna have to do some fancy footwork to put it all together. Any more? Okay. All right, let's start. Let us begin. Okay. So, as I said before, when people read the story of the Garden of Eden, they are probably putting it into very simplistic and wrong terminology. Adam and Chava were spiritual beings that their body was a reflection of their soul, as opposed to people today who are very conscious of their body and can spend many, many years unaware of their soul, right? Person could go and if they don't have lunch, they're like passing out. I'm dying, I have to have lunch. And they can go like 60 years without doing a spiritual act and not notice it. That's because the relation to the body and the soul has changed. Okay, the body is called a stranger in the soul. The soul is called a stranger in the body. The power of the soul is diminished in the body, and therefore a person has to wake that up through their free will actions. And that's why the power of the soul, the voice of the soul, the Yetzer Tov, is louder and stronger the voice of the Yetzer Hara that pushes you to negativity. But the difference is that you're closer to your body. So imagine I heard a guy who had a very powerful voice, but he was 100 miles away, or somebody had a quiet voice, but they were right in my ear. I'd hear the guy right in my ear. So we relate to our bodies, and therefore we don't hear always the power of our soul. And that's the situation how God set it up to create the challenge of this world, body and soul. But a person, if they relate to their body, they don't really relate to their soul. It's very hard to. The reality is that we are essentially a soul, and the body is a casing to the soul. Adam and Eve were in that reality. And that's why, if you ever ask yourself a question that Ronald asked, he said, wait a minute, they eat the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So Ronald's question was, well, I don't understand. If they didn't know good and evil, so how'd they know it was a sin? Okay, that's a question, another question on top of that question, Ronald. It says they ate the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and they realized they weren't wearing clothes. Excuse me? You don't need to eat the tree of knowledge of good and evil not to know you were not wearing clothes. If you're not wearing clothes, you know you're not wearing clothes. I mean, it's pretty obvious. How did all of a sudden they realize that they should have known before? I mean, they know that wearing clothes. So what does it mean they knew they weren't wearing clothes? Now what it means? What it means is like this. They were in a world of goodness. There was no internal drive to negativity. That's what it means. All of us have a drive to do good things and God forbid drive to negative things. In our life, we need to control and overcome and transform any desire for negativity and turn it to a desire for good. That quality lives within us. We don't have a serpent coming to communicate with us to try to fool us to do the wrong thing. We do it all by ourselves, right? We get angry. We say, how come that person should have it? What do they deserve it for? Oh, wow. I know I'm on a diet, but that cake looks incredible. I can't control myself. Or whatever other things we do that we have part of us itself pushes us to counterproductive activities that's inside of us. Adam and Eve did not have that. They lived in a world where they were spiritually elevated and there was no blending of good and evil. Evil was separated in the process of perfection that God was bringing the world to. But again, God did not do it fully himself because otherwise there's no purpose in the world. He wanted us people to do it. So Adam and Eve, as the prototype and containing all the souls of humanity, they could have done it for us. We were like in them. But what happened was when God said not to eat the tree of knowledge of good and evil, so why did Adam and Eve do it? They knew they're doing the wrong thing. Well, as the question was, they knew, then why did they do it? I mean, why did they do it? They knew Hashem. And I just said the desire to do evil is not inside of them. That's why they do it. So let me give you an example. Imagine a guy wants to show his wife how much he loves her. So he lives in the frozen tundras of, I don't know, Montreal. I lived in Montreal for 2 years. I lived in Montreal. It's the winter. Can't find flowers to save his life. There's no flowers. But he wants to show his wife he loves her. So he goes and he gets on a plane and he flies down south to go into the most beautiful field and to pick these bouquet of flowers, the most beautiful bouquet ever. He flies back and gives them to his wife. Wife says, wow, you must really love me. Now, he gave her the flowers. That's scenario one. Scenario two, the guy goes out. Many people, many Jewish husbands buy for their wives flowers every Friday. So this guy, he knows his wife wants flowers. He doesn't go out to buy the flowers. He doesn't think about buying the flowers. He goes out to do his thing. He goes out, he's walking around, and he passes one guy who's selling flowers. Man, the second guy selling flowers. Then on his way home, this one guy says, "Listen, I got a last bouquet of flowers, man. I gotta get rid of it. It's a $50 bouquet. Give me $1 and I'll get out and take it." Says, great. Takes the bouquet, gives it to his wife. Now, both people have given bouquets of flowers to their wives. Which one loves his wife more? Bachelor number one or bachelor number two? Obviously bachelor number one, because it's not the flowers, it's the intent and the work that you put in to show your love. So Adam and Eve were in a world that was almost perfect, and they said, listen, God just asked us to do one thing, not to eat the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and only until the Sabbath. It's not very hard. We could do what God wants, but I have a better idea. If I eat the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and I have evil in part of me I have to overcome, and I still serve God, and I still say I don't want evil, I only want God, that's like the guy who flies out to go and buy the bouquet of flowers. I'm not just doing it because it's easy. I want to make it harder and show God how much I love him and how much I'm dedicated to do. So they definitely did a sin. They knew they were doing the wrong thing that God said not to do. They were entering into the world, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It was a reality where good and evil are mixed up. I hate to tell you all, it's very deep, but that's our reality today. Reality is good and evil is mixed up. Almost most things in the world, you can use it for good or use it for bad. You know, your cell phone, your smartphone. In Israel, you know, a vast majority of religious people do not have smartphones. And the reason why is because besides for smartphones often make you dumb, but they become addictive. If the guy's looking at good things, he's wasting his time with stuff. But could it be used for good stuff? Sure. So most things in the world, almost everything can be used for good, used for bad. The world is not so simple. Are people all bad? Well, this guy's pretty bad, but he's got some redeeming qualities. This guy's very good. He has some bad qualities. So what Adam and Eve did, they did a sin because they were bad, but they made a grave mistake. But they wanted to enter a world where good and evil was not so clear as it was in the garden. It's our world. Our world is a world of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Our world is a world where good and evil is mixed up. And you have to sift through it. And you got to pick out what it is. And you got to look at it honestly. And that is very, very, very difficult. Now, that leads me to the second question. What Laura asked and Dan asked about the Noahide situation. Laura, I read the question that the person asked you, and there is a certain underlining point that you have to understand. And this is very, very crucial. There are no such things as religions. We don't believe in religions. There's not the Jewish religion. There's not the Noahide religion. There is no religions. That's a fake thing that people have made up to make a group they feel, I'm part of this team. There is the Torah, which is God's communication to mankind. And in that Torah, there's a way to live for all people, for Jews and for non-Jews. For everyone in the world, there is a way that they must live. That is the mission. Now, what happens is when people are now used to like religions, so they're used to like, oh, so what benefits do I get by being part of this group? I'm part of this group, so that means I identify this way, identify that way. But that's not the reality. The word Judaism, that's not from a Jewish source. That's a non-Jewish source called the Judaism. There's no place that Torah says, oh, this is a religion of Judaism. There's no such thing. The word Yehudi is from the word Judah. Most of the Jews are from the tribe of Judah. Alternatively, because the word is to thank. It's a quality to thank God. It's a central component. A person who acknowledges, Modeh, admits that there's one God, recognizes God. But there's no name for religion. Because what there is that there is the Torah that God communicated. Adam had the Torah. Adam was taught Torah, not given in the same way as was commanded at Mount Sinai. But Adam and Noah and the great people who came from Adam, who was a prophet, did transmit Torah. Jacob, Abraham, they learned Torah from the school of the descendants of Noah, the school of called Shem and Aver. Shem was the son of Noah, and his grandson Aver. They had a school, and it was very few people. Abraham was the one who spread the Torah in the world. Before that, there was a small group of people because Adam was a prophet, and he transmitted how to act. And they studied that. Small group of people studied the wisdom that Adam had, tremendous wisdom. And it was from the source himself, from God. And he transmitted that, and they studied, and they learned it. It wasn't given in the format it's given today, and it wasn't given as an obligation, other than the 7 Noahide laws, which Adam did study. But therefore, what happens is that there is not a question of a Jewish religion or another religion. We don't make up religions. What it is that there's a way to live your life. And that's a little bit hard for our American taste buds. Because we like things that have like good packaging. What? Wow, how are you going to sell this? I don't know. Call it Pop-Tarts. I don't know. Jerry Seinfeld, I don't know. Give it a name. Give it something that sounds good, that sounds intelligent, sounds fun. There's a whole marketing business around the world today, which disconnects us from the truth. And so what happens is that the reality of how people try to sell them. It's not, there's no Noahide religion, there's no Jewish religion. There is the Torah, there is God's imperative, God's commandment, God's instruction on how every individual should function. Now, this is causes a bit of a difficulty, because what happens is that like Dan asked, he said, wait a minute, so why didn't the rabbis put out some kind of system of how noachis have to function? And and I mentioned this before, there's really another even deeper question to what Dan is asking, which is that the verse says in the prophets, the Jews must be a light unto nations. So, I'm trying to teach you guys and trying to share things. But I have thousands of rabbis around me here, and they're not doing it. Very few people are doing it. Why? Why are so few people doing that to be a light unto nations? So what happened was like this. You got to understand the evolution of the world. I mean, evolution in the theory of evolution type sense, but I mean the development of the world. Adam was the first human being. There was no Jew, non-Jew. Adam was the society. God gave 2,000 years for anyone to go and to find Hashem. 2,000 years. There was no Jewish people. Everyone could have been the Jewish people. Everyone could have taken the mission. There was the basic laws of morality. And Lara, as the person said in the question that was asked, yeah, if a person, I mean, we have in this group very dedicated people. But if a person wants to keep the 7 Noachide laws in the most basic way, he could do it. He could do it. It's not demanded the obligation of being a Jew, which is a 24/7 obligation. A person can enjoy their lives, do things, and be righteous. People here on this group have a lot more, a development and want to do more and accomplish more. It's beautiful. But when God commanded Adam, there was no Jew or non-Jew. And God gave 2,000 years for anyone to find him. And he was very accessible. And nobody did. After 3 generations, they were worshiping idols already. 3 generations from Adam. Adam, Seth, and then Enosh. And then the 3rd generation already, the text says, they started calling things God. And there's already the break in the whole system. And if you go through archaeology, you'll see over 2,000 years, the world just got worse and worse and worse. And that's the point where God said to where nobody chose God except for one person, Abraham. Abraham chose God. So you can look at it as God chose Abraham, or you can look at it as Abraham chose God, because Hashem put a 2,000-year time limit on the system. Plenty of time for every one of the 70 nations to choose God and know this of Abraham. At that point, God said, okay, now the system of the roots is finished. And everyone keeps the 7 basic laws of morality. And if somebody wants to graft onto Abraham's tree and become Jewish, they can. They don't need to. They keep the 7 Noachide laws of righteousness and morality, and they will have a portion of the world to come. Now, Abraham then had Isaac and Jacob. The Jewish people went down, became a nation. 600,000. They came out, they got the Torah, and they were established as a nation. Now, when the Jews wanted to come into the land of Israel, as we're up to in the Torah portions, there was a lot of negativity. You're going to see in the portion after this one, that the story of Bill and Balaam, they had to prevent the Jews from coming to the land of Israel, almost like today. Why? Because they knew when the Jews entered the land of Israel, the world would change. The world would come to a new level of consciousness and clarity they didn't want. And it happened. When the Jews came to the land of Israel and they eventually built the temple 480 years after leaving Egypt, when Shlomo built the temple, the world was at a state of peace. There were no natural disasters. And everyone knew the God of Israel was the true God. And there was prosperity in the world. And all of the nations came and recognized King Shlomo as the king of the Jews in the temple serving God. And they came to the temple, and Solomon prayed that when anyone from the nations comes to pray at the temple, God should answer their prayers. I mean, can you imagine that? Guaranteed situation, your prayers are answered? Unbelievable. This was a world of perfection. And it was a time where the world now were listening and trying to eat and drink the wisdom of the Jewish nation. And they weren't going out in the world. They were in Israel, but they're like a magnet. It was drawing all the holiness in and expanding out, which, by the way, is why King Solomon married 1,000 wives, which we know was a mistake. So why did the great Solomon do this? He was a great, holy, righteous man. He could have been the Mashiach. Why did he do it when he wasn't supposed to? The answer is that King Shlomo felt that if he marries the princesses of every land and then teaches them Torah, they will go to their nation and they will teach them the Torah too. And that was happening. It literally was happening. He was spreading the Torah throughout the whole world. But you can't play around. God said not to marry many wives. The king couldn't have married many wives, and he did. And therefore the system fell apart. Now, as the system fell apart, when the Jews went into exile, the nations in the world, instead of asking the Jews for the wisdom of what God is commanding, like they asked King Shlomo, they started to persecute the Jews. Okay? And that is where the system has been holding to this day. From the time of the last exile, from the Roman exile 2,000 years ago, that's where the world's been holding. The world has been trying to silence the Jew. And I don't mean the Jew, the Jew who's not teaching Judaism. I don't mean the Jews like Albert Einstein or any of the other Karl Marx or any other unsuccessful Jews that we consider. Yes, I said that Albert Einstein was considered an unsuccessful Jew. He is. I hate to say it, but we don't look at him. Oh, Albert Einstein. Yeah. Theory of relativity I could show you from a much earlier source, Albert Einstein. So by Abraham wrote it in the Sefer Yetzirah. The Maharal explained it in great detail in the 1500s. But that's not the point. The point is that the Jew who knew the ways of God and how to live were no longer sought out by the nations of the world. They instead persecuted the Jew and chased the Jew, wanted to kill the Jew and remove God from the world. And that's why it says in the text, it says that the people who are Hashem Jews, the Jewish people's enemies, are God's enemy. It's a very, very startling thing. I don't know if you know this, but it's an amazing thing. They had, this is crazy. They were speaking. I don't know who had this interview, but somebody interviewed someone from Hamas. And they said to him, your missiles are very inaccurate. Why are they so inaccurate? And he said, no, you don't understand. They are accurate. But every time we send it to the right place, the God of the Jews pushes it into a different direction. This is the guy who keeps shooting the rockets. So I said to him, so if you believe that, why do you keep sending the rockets? It's a good question, right? So he said, we hope that their God will get angry at them and then he won't protect them. This is where the world's at. They don't want to hear anymore what the Jew says, because the Jew's coming as the emissary of God. And I'm not saying this in a haughty way. Everyone's got a mission. Person wants to convert, they can convert. Person wants to keep the 7 laws. The Talmud says they're like a high priest. They're doing their mission in life. Everyone's got a mission. Everyone's got a mission. God loves all of his creations. But the Jew has the obligation to be the representative to teach God's Torah to the world, to be a light unto nations. And the reason why they stopped doing it is because all the nations have been doing, they've been trying to slaughter the Jews for the past 2,000 years. You can't go and convince someone, hey, I got a booklet on how to act. Boom, I don't want your booklet, So because of that, the sages maintain that the obligation of the Jews to be a light unto nations has been on hold because there's nobody listening. Now that's what's the change that's happening now, Lara, and I believe it's a real change. And this is what I empathize with all of our issue here, is that we see people like yourselves today who say, wait a minute, we're from the nations of the world, and we're seeing the reality. If you haven't noticed, the emperor's not wearing any clothes. They're going crazy. They can't believe that President Biden is senile. They can't believe it. It's been obvious for 2 years already. What are you talking about? So Jake Tapper gets on the thing and says, this is Orwellian. They're telling us not to believe what our eyes see, not to believe what our ears hear. What Mr. Tapper, is that all they're telling you? That's a lie? They tell you men are women. Is that a lie? Yeah. They're telling you right is left, left is right. They're telling you there's no morality. Everything they're telling you is wrong. The whole thing is a lie. Now, why is that? This is great news for you all. God is pulling back the curtain, and the emperor's not wearing clothing, and you get to see it. It's all a big lie. Now, you're going to have the people who go and say, well, the president had a cold. Oh, okay, yeah, well, this was a lie, but everything else was true. Yeah, okay, we got to exchange him for somebody else, but everything else we said was true. Oh, yeah. And the whole thing's a lie. Now, because of that, maybe it's helping the world to maybe wake up. And there are people like yourselves in the nations of the world who want to know the truth. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to go into, and we have been in discussion with the chief rabbi in Israel. And we are trying to reach out to the nations of the world who are like yourselves, understanding and seeing through the lie. But the lie has been spread. It didn't just spread now with the past few years. The past few years have just been able to be, you can see through it more clearly. But the lies of the society go back to the destruction of the temple. You know the name Palestine, where it comes from? Name Palestine was a name given by the Romans. When they conquered the Jews, they wanted to stick it in our faces. So there was a nation called the ancient Philistines, who have no bearing on the Palestinians today. They're a completely different nation. The nation has died. They were a seafaring nation. They worshipped a god that was a half fish, and they're long extinct. But so they called it Palestine, like put it into our noses, like, this was your old enemy. Now we're going to call your land Palestine. So the whole system that of what truth became, and what is right and what is wrong became all confused. Like Ronald was asking, the tree of knowledge of good and evil is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. The good is being concealed and the evil is just like proliferating. And even Jewish values, which have succeeded against the Nazis and Hitler and the Nietzsche belief of the Ubermensch, the person who's strong, doesn't care, wants to kill the downtrodden. The Jewish belief of helping the stranger, that is one in America. The enlightened Athenians used to kill a deformed baby. It was the right thing to do. The enlightened Athenians, Greece, because they felt that that was the right thing to do for society. Kill the lower, the weaker. The Jews said no. Now what do you have? Now you got an upside down world where even that truth itself is being used by our society to say everything is racism. If you're ugly, you're beautiful. If you're weak, you're strong. Everything's upside down. I mean, really? You know, I mean, we're not big proponents of focusing on the physicality of a person, but like, you know, just trying to, like, you know, people who are eating unhealthily and, you know, and are becoming very enlarged and saying, this is good, this is right, you need to accept this. No, do what you want to do. Don't put it in my face. So even a true concept of defending the downtrodden has turned it on its head. So the world has gone to a very, very black place. And that's why the sages for years have stayed away, because we can't teach the nations of the world because they don't want to hear. I believe it's changing now. And I believe it's changing because what's happening is that it says before Mashiach comes, there's a lot of different things. The truth is nederes. The truth is gone. One of the signs. I mean, really, it's like it's if you're, you know, if you used to be a conspiracy theorist, now you're a conspiracy factist. I don't know what to call it. Like, I mean, everything was a conspiracy. Every single thing that was a conspiracy in the past 3 years has become exactly true. Everything is crazy. So the truth is gone, is hidden. And now, because of that, people are seeking it out. Like I told you once before, the most powerful time of conversion in the world was the end of the Roman Empire. Because they kept seeing the contrast between the cruelty of Rome and the humanity of Judaism. They started converting. Now, when Christianity came, it changed the dynamic, because now it kind of watered down and said, okay, you can be moral and not be this and that, but not. So that slowed the process. But the world's back at a place where the reality is you see the emperor's now wearing clothes, and so therefore people are, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Evil is just running amok, and people are seeing it. So that's why today, Dan, people are starting to reach out and find systems, and we're trying to help you guys to be able to set up, because even though there's no religion per se, it's just doing the right thing. It's hard to do it alone. It's great that we have this dynamic of seeing each other, even though many of you haven't shown me your face. So you're in the background. I love to see your faces, by the way. No guilt here, but when you can, love to see your faces. Thanks, Terry. Good to see you. so, oh, you know, you're talking to, you know, I could be talking to nobody. I'm just going up. So right now, the world is changing. My trip to Houston got pushed off last time. I had to have a surgery, but God willing, we're looking in November to be back there. I'll see you people, help you set communities up, help you have connections, and try to really be a light unto nations. Okay, I had one more question that I had to tie in. So far we looked at Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. We understood that they wanted to do the right thing in a super way of challenging themselves more, but we fell into this world of good and evil. And now that world has made a world a messy place. And that's why there's been persecution of Jews instead of looking for the truth from the Jews. And that's why the nations have not been able to gather the knowledge from the Jewish people. But it's changing. The process is changing. Now, as we said, as Cheyenne asked, a person can this is a very fair system. Everyone could do what they need to do. Everyone's got an important mission. Someone who is 7 mitzvahs Noachide laws, wonderful. Do it. Hashem loves you. You'll get rewarded. It's tremendous, tremendous, tremendous thing. Person who wants to take on all of the mitzvah, the 13 commandments, is able to do that. There's no barriers. It's funny, like, they have all these like leftists trying to say Israel, it's a, like whatever, queers for Palestine. That's like every minority, is trying to like be against the Jews. All these the Jewish people, we don't really have any guidelines about, race, in the sense that, yes, it is a nation that was a family. But when a person converts, if they're black or they're white, they're brown, whatever they are, they are Jewish, not different than any other Jew. There's no class system. So, you have Jews of all different types. So if a person wants to convert, they can convert. Now, if they convert, they are considered to be starting their life again. They are reformed to the point where their past is really changed. And therefore they do get a new mazel. I have never seen it brought in a text that they would get it when they convert, on the day they convert, but it would make sense. Now, let me explain briefly about mazel. So there are different, I can't get into it now because it's a long topic. Maybe I'll do it next time. Again, it's the second chapter of my book. But astrology, as you know it today, is full of a lot of charlatans and whatever crazy stuff. But there is truth to a system that if you knew how to read the constellations, you would see the imprint of the flow that God is putting down in the world. And when a person is born, there are different effects that happen. The time of day they're born, the month they're born, many, many other factors. These are called the mazel, the tools, the flow that a person is given to accomplish his mission in life. They're dictated by many, many factors. A person takes these tools and now uses them as the circumstances to accomplish their mission in life. God gives you tools, okay? And those tools are what you need to accomplish your mission. If a person converts, they are now coming into a new reality, and therefore I've not been seated inside. The logic would dictate that when they convert, they will get a new mazel. That would seem to be the case. Now, why do I say that? Because we also give it a new name. There are certain methods that we have. Talmud discusses how to change mazel, how to change the flow that a person gets. One way is a name change. Now, why does a name change work? Because a name change says, I am a new person. I'm not the same person. So certainly when a person converts, they are a new person. So they get a new name on the day of conversion. When they convert, so they come out of the mikveh, we give them a new name, and that means they have a new flow of who they are and what they can accomplish. And therefore, it would make sense that the mazel then would also change to be appropriate to the mission. And again, I can't get into this right now, but if you want to look in my book in chapter 2, I explain it in detail, but just to briefly, is that the mazel is the means, Okay, so let's say, for example, someone is given a lot of money. So is that good? Yeah, it's great. Well, if someone's given no money, is that good? No, it's terrible. Well, maybe. But the truth is they're both means to an end. Because the person who's given money is obligated to use the money properly. A person not given money is obligated to now not be angry or jealous of so whatever test they have. So the tools they're given is the means by which to accomplish something in life. And this is the last thing I want to end with this. My daughter, one of my kids, kind of like has kind of gone in my footsteps and was asked to do a concert for girls and to go and speak to them. It's today on the 4th of July, some American kids that were in Israel. So she calls me up and she says, what I talk about, I'm going to play some songs. And she said, we talk about songs and give some Torah. And they wanted me to connect to the 4th of July. So she said, what should you say? So I said, every nation has a greatness. And that's the Talmud says the Jews went to exile to bring back converts. Now, it means converts, but it also means the qualities of every nation of goodness that's in the nation to bring it into holiness. So I said to my daughter, I said, what would you say is the greatest quality of America? And talk about that. So what is it? I said, well, if I had to say quality of America, I would say freedom. Now, here we got a problem. Because in the new America, what does it mean to be free? I get the same goodies as you get. I could break into the Apple store and take what I want. That's freedom. We all get the same thing. That's not what freedom meant. It's not what it means. And that's not even the founding fathers of America said freedom meant. They were escaping persecution. They were largely Christians who had different forms that they were practicing. And they wanted to go to a place to say, you're free. Freedom of religion means that you as a person are free to do what you must do to live a meaningful life. That's what freedom is. That's why freedom is so important. That's why in Judaism, the idea of a slave is such an anathemism to what the purpose of life is. I am free to live my life meaningfully. That's what it is. It's not you can get the same goodies. So in America, we kind of lost that. Freedom means that you are free to live you decide what you think is a meaningful life. Now you want to choose right. You don't want to choose wrong, because you could choose wrong. But it's up to you to choose what you believe. And that is today's session. So what's tied all together? We have the Garden of Eden. We have Adam and Eve wanting to bring perfection. And they want to do it by making it a little harder. They want to go into the world of negativity where good and evil is mixed up. But that evil world led to tremendous confusion. And it led to a falling out. And then what happened was that God said that anyone could come close to him in the various methods, the 7 Noachide laws of the commandments, the 13 commandments of the Torah. And the Jews would have to teach that. But that was when the world of evil came out, they silenced, they didn't want to hear from the sages. And that is changing now. And people are coming as they're seeing the emperors now wearing clothes. They're coming. Some are converting and some are being righteous Noachides. And God willing, everyone will thereby do their mission in life and attain the freedom that says the only free person is someone who learns Torah, who knows what is the right thing to do, and they do it because they want to do what is right and what is good. Okay, everybody. I'm going to sign off. I got to go. And All right. Look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thank you,
Beautiful.
Rabbi.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. That
Thanks,
was
Rabbi.
wonderful.
Ronald's good to
Thank
see
you.
you.
Thank you.
Good to see Cheyenne, Lara, everybody. Kara, Tar, glad you made it back home.
All the best.
And
Thanks,
you too,
guys.
Rod.
Bye-bye.
Good to see you too.
Yes, good to you,
See you
man.
next
Shalom,
week.
shalom. Terry, tell John I said hi.
Bye,
All right,
everyone.
folks. On that
Bye-bye.
note, we're going to sign out for today. Beautiful lessons. I really enjoyed Rabbi Ingber's explanations. I think they were spot on, to the point, addressed so much, fills in so many gaps in my thinking for sure. Hopefully you found it as useful too. So Hashem willing, we'll be back next week with the Netiv group for more of our Working Together series with Rabbi Karmi Ingber. Till then, have a wonderful, wonderful week, everybody. Bye for now.